This is in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. That means we're brought to you by Rouse's Markets. Working towards a holiday weekend. This is the last day for me. I'm out of here tomorrow. Musa will be sitting in, so we'll empty the whole bucket for this next 2 hours. Luke Johnson's going to be with us at 1:15, 15 minutes from now, talking about the Saints. Some kind of drama with the Superdome. Saints owe somebody $11 million. I don't know what the deal is. We'll get Luke's thoughts on that. Joe Healy from Hoover coming up in 30 minutes. We'll also go back to Hoover in hour number 2 to chat with Chris Blair before he gets on the call for LSU and South Carolina as the SEC tournament continues to churn away. This morning, Arkansas bowed out. They are headed back to Fayetteville. That's where they'll host a regional. If they win that, a super regional, but they go 0-2 in Hoover. Winning is Kentucky Wildcats. They'll move on to tomorrow. Just underway in Hoover right now, Tennessee and Texas A&M in an elimination game that means absolutely nothing to either one of those baseball teams. They will both be top 8 national seeds, but a lot of talent on the field, so we'll keep you caught up on that. LSU and South Carolina will get underway coming up here at around 4:30, and that's where we'll start today. Thatcher Herd's going to get the ball, and we learned that last night, and I tweeted this out, like, I really like this. You spend 56 games in the regular season and then whatever you've got in a conference tournament, basically cultivating your identity as a team and creating a resume for the postseason. And we understand what this LSU baseball team is right now. They've got a lineup that's got a couple stars in it. They've got a lineup that's deepening. They've got a two-headed monster at the front end of the rotation that's been as good as anybody in the country for the last 6 weeks. They've got a shutdown closer at the back end of the bullpen. And beyond that, you have questions about pitching. And I'm not even talking about running towards a national championship. We know that LSU did that last year. But even in a regional, even in a super regional, and if you are lucky enough to get to Omaha, you need guys to step up at the back end of your pitching staff. It is vital. You can ride 2 pitchers and a closer some of the way there, but you've got to have other guys step up. And right now you feel pretty good about what Nate Ackenhausen can give you. You feel pretty good about what Christian Little can give you. And beyond that, there's some talent and a lot of question marks and some poor performance. And Thatcher Herd's fall from grace from the Friday night starter for the defending national champs to unused bullpen arm has been a detriment to this team. There's no doubt about that. When you've got a guy on your roster who's going to be a top 3-round draft choice, who throws 96 miles an hour with a ridiculously high spin breaking ball, and he's not really helping you, you're not as good a team as you can be. And if LSU is going to reach their potential, they're going to need some help from him somewhere along the way. Maybe it's in a regional championship game. Maybe it's in a regional elimination game. Maybe it's up in Omaha. Remember, Riley Cooper last year started as a weekend arm and lost that job and then went in the bullpen and wasn't that great. And by the end of the season, he was a dude. And I'm not predicting that for Thatcher Herd, but I'm hopeful today that maybe he turns a corner. I've always thought over these 2 years now that the middle part of this whole thing was very important to Thatcher Herd. And you get shaken when you lose your job. And he lost his job. And when you look at his numbers on the year, they're not very impressive. You're talking about a guy who's sporting an ERA of 6.5. But if you look a little bit more deeply, he's given up 25 earned runs this year. 12 of them came in 2 games, Mississippi State and Florida. He gave up 7 at Mississippi State. He gave up 5 at Florida. And at that point, he kind of lost his gig and hasn't been given an opportunity, really, to give up a 7 spot. But those 2 games massively skew the statistics. What if I told you of late, of his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 outings, he's only given up runs in 2 of those 9. Now, he was awful a couple of weeks ago against A&M. He came in and faced 3 batters and walked them all. 2 of those guys came around to score. So I'm not saying he's like turned a corner. He's actually been great, but it's not like he's getting lit up. His issue is he's got to throw more strikes. In 34 2/3 innings this year, Thatcher Herd has given up 21 walks. That is way too many. Way too many. So today, you put him in a very easy spot mentally in terms of the team. LSU doesn't need to win today. If they do, great. See you Saturday. If they don't, whatever. See you tomorrow. They don't need to win today. This is as low a leverage spot as is left on LSU's schedule, obviously. So Thatcher Herd should have a pretty clear mind to go out there today. And maybe, just maybe, if he goes out there against a good, not great South Carolina offense and gives you 4 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts, maybe mentally he creates some confidence. The coaching staff, in turn, feels confident in him, and he's called upon in a bigger spot next week. Because someone's got to be. You can't get to this. You can't advance just counting on Gage Jump, Luke Holman, and Griffin Herring to do all the work. You can't. Now, some work's more difficult than others, but Thatcher Herd's got a chance to help. We've seen this in most of LSU's big-time runs late in seasons. I mentioned Riley Cooper to you earlier in the segment. Clearly came on late as a trusted bullpen arm. I could go back to the College World Series MVP in Trey Hodges that was coming off of an injury, wasn't awesome in the regular season, and all of a sudden became a really trusted reliever. And I would be blowing a little bit of smoke here if Thatcher Herd threw 88 miles an hour with the slurvy breaking ball. Like, expecting someone without elite level stuff to turn into someone they haven't been for 4 months is disingenuous and probably foolish. But we have seen Thatcher Herd do this before. I mention these 2 outings all the time because I think the other one gets singled out more. When I say Thatcher Herd, you think Florida of last year. When I think Thatcher Herd, I think Wake Forest last year. In that Paul Skeens game against Rhett Lauder that was scoreless, Thatcher Herd came in at the end and had to hang some zeros to keep LSU's season alive. And while Wake Forest did hit the ball pretty hard in a couple of those spots, he put the zeros up there and allowed Tommy White to hit the home run. He kept the season alive. When I think Thatcher Herd, I think Oregon State. Ty Floyd starts, looks pretty good. Rains come, tarps out. Well, Floyd shut down. What do? Thatcher Herd, 12 strikeouts. It's in there. And this is the perfect opportunity to try to unlock it. You're facing a good, not great offense in a ballpark that's traditionally good to pitch in. Now, it was jumping this morning. Kentucky and Arkansas were hitting some homers this morning. But it's a low leverage spot, should be a comfy spot, and maybe something gets unlocked. It's wild, the change in narrative that we've had about this LSU baseball team in the course of 7 days. This time last week, on Thursday, you're sitting there going, well, they got to sweep Ole Miss, and they probably can't. I mean, at least that's what I was saying. They got to sweep Ole Miss, they probably can't. Well, they did. And then they've played great for 2 days. And now instead of reading the resume of James Madison to you, instead of looking at Cincinnati's bubble case, I'm talking about how to make a run into Omaha. But I think that's the way a lot of people feel right now about the way LSU's playing. Well, if you're going to do that, somebody's got to step forward here. Pitching great in Hoover doesn't tell me that you're going to pitch great next week or that you'll be called upon next week, but it certainly doesn't hurt. I am very excited and hopeful for Thatcher Herd's outing. Because, one, it's huge for the team, and two, this is a pretty big outing for him in terms of the money he's going to sign for here in 2 months. And I know that y'all aren't concerned with that because you care about what LSU does, not necessarily what Thatcher Herd's checking account looks like. But just as a human, like, I'm pulling for the guy. He's done some great things in purple and gold. We saw what the last few weeks of the season can do financially for you with Ty Floyd last year. You think he gets drafted that high if he didn't strike out 17 against Florida? No. There's a lot of scouts in Hoover, Alabama. And hopefully Thatcher Herd can deliver a really strong performance today. I don't know if they're looking to get 4 innings, 6 innings, 2 innings. I don't know what the plan is. They've got plenty of bodies ready to go today. But today is a huge, huge start for Thatcher Herd individually, both financially and for this team, in a game that doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot for LSU. I'm very excited to see what Thatcher Herd can do this afternoon against South Carolina. We'll talk to Chris Blair about it coming up in an hour from right now. Joe Healy's with us in 20 minutes from Hoover. Our baseball breakdowns all season long brought to you by Pluckers Wing Bar. Get on by and watch some baseball today after work. You can go by Pluckers, either location, Bluebonnet, front of the mall, Louisiana, Nicholson, just south of campus. They'll have the game on. They'll have ice cold beer. They'll have delicious jumbo chicken wings. Check it out. Watch some baseball because they bring you our baseball reports every single day. All right, let's take a time out. When we come back, the Saints owe a lot of money to somebody. Luke Johnson's going to tell us about it coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
He's here. Anyone want a Coors Light?
Oh, shoot, I forgot to play the song. I got a guy who can fix this.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers win and advance in Hoover. It'll be LSU against South Carolina. We're counting you down with the Tigers and Gamecocks. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Of course, Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Luke Johnson covers those Saints for the Advocate, joins us each and every Thursday talking black and gold. Luke, how we doing?
Hunt Palmer, my guy. I'm doing great.
Good to hear from you. Look, the Saints not paying their bills. What's the situation between the New Orleans Saints, the city, and the Superdome at this point?
Yeah, this is just really strange. That it's like two organizations, kind of prestigious organizations here in town, who are just like bantering back and forth through press releases. So I really wish I could give you a great answer on what's going on here, but it just seems like kind of this weird standoff that is ultimately going to have to reach a resolution, right? I mean, like this is we're talking about the renovation of the Superdome that needs to be done in time for the start of the season because they're hosting a Super Bowl this year. So it's just I mean it's just weird like the vagueness of these statements going back and forth, like the Saints saying, well, we needed certain documentation, we haven't gotten certain documentation, and then the LSED comes out like a couple hours later saying, like, putting documentation in air quotes, going like, what the hell are you talking about? It's stupid, and I'm just fully expecting this to be resolved when the grown-ups actually sit down in a room and figure out how to shell out a couple $1 million, which is like a drop in the bucket for the Saints.
Yeah, I'm curious the effect on, like, would they have to potentially miss a preseason game here or there before this gets resolved? What about the lease that the team has with the stadium, and is that kind of the time frame we're working with here? Like, what are some of the time restraints on this situation?
Well, yeah, I mean, this thing needs to be done by like mid-August, right? At least to a point where it's not going to like hinder the operations, the day-to-day operations of the Superdome from August through February when they're hosting the Super Bowl. So like that's why I think when we're talking about why this sort of bickering has reached the public sphere, it's because the clock is kind of ticking on this thing. And whatever their disagreements are, like it needs to happen. And I thought it was interesting that the LSCD in the first press release that comes out yesterday, the first comments about this thing is saying, like, maybe we don't get this renovation done if the money's not there. Obviously, like, they have to get it done soon. There's still a little bit that needs to be completed before the start of the season, and I mean, as we're sitting here, it's May 23rd, and we're talking about a preseason game that's supposed to be played in the Dome, like August 20-something. 3 months. I got 3 months to get this thing done.
I'm curious, this renovation that we're talking about, are you talking about the completion of the entirety of the renovation projects, or just what they're trying to do in this offseason? Because isn't it like a years-long deal that's being done in phases?
Yes. I haven't like looked at the phase completion schedule here, but it was my understanding that this thing was all geared toward this year's Super Bowl.
Okay.
And getting everything finished and ready for that. There might be aspects of this that are going to be completed after the game, but this is the major parts of the Superdome renovation. We're kind of contingent upon them hosting a Super Bowl in the first place. So I don't know if I don't know for sure if there are more renovations that are set to be done after the game. But the vast majority of it is aimed to be done before the game.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but essentially what you're saying here, that you expect this to get figured out when the adults sit down, and that there's not going to be any tangible effect on the fan base as a result of this bickering in terms of the press releases.
Yes, that is my take on things. It's so strange to see it play out this way. These sorts of things almost always happen behind closed doors. And not just with the weird vague public statements, kind of going back and forth in the span of a couple hours. It was just weird watching that all ping pong yesterday.
Big Louisiana vibes on this.
Yes,
this
huge Louisiana vibes.
All right,
how can we bring the deranged Louisiana politics into our sports? Like, that's exactly what we need here.
Exactly. So let's talk some football. OTAs this past week. Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, a lot of things. One, I just thought it was really interesting that Trevor Penning is kind of stepping in at right tackle right away. I think a lot of us were just like wondering what they were going to do with him. Were they going to move him inside to guard? Was he going to be start out as kind of like a backup left tackle, and maybe we see Landon Young out there while Ryan Ramczyk is still very uncertain? But no, I think it was smart to just try him out there and see what he can do and see if it feels weird and awkward to him to be on the complete opposite side of the line where he's been his entire career. Kind of like the same thing that we were talking about with Tali Fuanga a couple weeks ago when they had the rookie mini camp. There's nothing we can really truly tell from these OTA practices. It's, obviously they're not running in pads. They don't even have the full contingent of the roster out there. But I think it's a good sign for Penning that they're looking at him with the first team offense right now. I think that means his off season's gone. At least it hasn't been a disaster, right? Which is, I think, all you can hope for right now. You just hope he turns into a dependable player. Maybe he never turns into a great one, but if he could be a starting caliber player on your team, that's a good thing. And the other thing for me that I just thought was really interesting, I couldn't stop thinking about it, was we go out there and the way it kind of works at these practices is they have two separate fields, and often, like, after they go through their stretch, the offense will go to the far field and the defense will stay on the near field, like kind of where we walk in. So after they break up, a lot of us will walk over to the offensive side, and I was looking for Taysom Hill, and I couldn't find him with the quarterbacks or the tight ends or the receivers. And then I'm like, where is he? And I see him, like, standing next to the guys in the 40 uniform numbers. He's with the fullbacks, which is just, it's like, oh, okay, weird, interesting. And then you see him go out there for 7-on-7, and the first snap he takes, he's lined up in the backfield, like in an offset eye. And he motions out of the backfield and catches a pass in the flat. And you're like, okay, like, we didn't really know exactly what Clint Kubiak thought of Taysom Hill. He's had a very unique role in this offense that has stood for a long time here in New Orleans. But you bring a new guy in, you're like, okay, how does he see him? I think it's pretty clear that he sees Taysom Hill as a weapon and somebody you can use in multiple ways, the way the Saints have been using him, and really even building on that. So I think a good sign for the Saints, because he was, to me, I think their best player on a per play basis last year. So good to see that they're continuing to kind of lean into finding more things that he can do.
I was thinking about the Saints this morning and how I wanted to approach this discussion with you. And one of the guys that we have just not talked about really a lot at all since really training camp of last year is Kendre Miller. I know the injuries were the reason for that last year. Is it realistic to expect him to take a big piece of that role at running back this year?
I think kind of remains to be seen. The thing is that they're bringing in a completely new style of running scheme, and sometimes these schemes like the different backs are more successful in it. I don't know if Kendre Miller's skill set is exactly what fits this scheme until I kind of see him operate in it a little bit more. I think his best trait is his explosiveness. But maybe that's not exactly what the scheme wants out of its running back. Maybe it needs somebody whose best trait is their vision. Maybe this is like something that's really going to bring the most out of Jamal Williams, who was, frankly, awful in this offense last year. So I just think it's a little bit too early for me yet to say whether this is going to be a fit for him. Or any of the backs on this roster. I just kind of want to see how they handle like the setting up the blocks and the way this new scheme works. I think I feel pretty comfortable saying Alvin Kamara is probably a pretty diverse scheme fit. But with Jamal Williams and Kendra Miller, I'm just not sure how that rotation is going to shape out yet. I just kind of want to see a little bit more. But I was really encouraged by the way he finished last year. There was a huge disappointment for much of the year, whether it was injuries or just like generally ineffectiveness out there. But if they can figure out this blocking scheme, and if that clicks for him, I think he could be really, really good, because the explosiveness is just obvious with him. And that was something they really lacked last year in the run game, was just like a home run hitter. And I think he can be that guy if it clicks for him.
It's way too early for me to ask this question, but I'm going to do it anyway. Do you expect that the offense is going to look significantly different than it did last year?
Yes, I do. And I just think that's just based on what we know about the scheme that they're bringing in, which, granted, little, right? We've only really seen it in one practice, and it's like the early install period, and we're not seeing the full thing, but we are seeing bits and pieces of it being different, more pre-snap motions. I think San Francisco played a pretty heavy percentage of its plays last year with a fullback on the field, and we're watching them out there in practice, and they got a fullback on the field for pretty much every snap. Sometimes it's Taysom Hill, but I think the offense is going to be noticeably different. And I think that's a good thing. I think they needed a change here, and specifically a change toward a scheme that had demonstrated success in the NFL. This is not like some of the other schemes where really it's just the play caller who's making it. I think when you're looking at the Shanahan, McVay offenses, pretty much every single one of those guys who's branched off and had their own offense and called their own plays has had a lot of success. I mean, I think 6 out of the top 12 offenses by total yardage last year were McVay Shanahan offenses. So I just think it's going to look different, and I think it's for the better. I'm actually anticipating the Saints are going to be an effective offensive team this year, assuming their offensive line is just not a complete dumpster fire.
Guess that remains to be seen. Luke, have a great holiday weekend. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
He's Luke Johnson, LSU Saints beat reporter for The Advocate. Joins us every Thursday talking black and gold. They are playing game 2 of the day over in Hoover. Scoreless between Tennessee and Texas A&M. We'll keep you posted on that. LSU and South Carolina to follow. We'll go to Hoover next and chat with Joe Healy of SEC Extra on the D1 baseball side of things. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit us at LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this spring for all the hoops and hockey playoff action. We got the biggest screens, the best food and drink, plus we're giving away Penn cash bonuses and prizes to Penn Play Rewards members. Not a member? No big deal. You can join today by downloading and registering for the Penn Play app from the App Store. Unlock all the fun, including a chance to win up to $2,000 in Penn cash. All this and more make LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino your spring sports viewing headquarters. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. a family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger.
Join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Jimmy has the day off, but we will have former LSU coach Paul Maneri along with Bruce Marshall and Troy Macker. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
College baseball postseason is officially cranking. Conference tournaments all over the country. If you're looking for scores, if you're looking for analysis, you're looking for updates, regional projections, all of that, you can find it at D1 Baseball. And if you're Southeastern Conference specific, like most of you are, the SEC Extra Package is an awesome one. It's Mark Etheridge and Joe Healy. Joe Healy with us every single Thursday and joins us from the Hoover Met over in Alabama. Joe, how are you?
Doing well, joining you from a hallway just outside the press box at the Hoover Met. Finding a quiet place to do a radio interview is not the easiest thing to do around here, but I think I found it.
I appreciate it very much. Gavaris Tears just put a dent in the wall in right field there. He's aboard for the Tennessee Vols as they take on Texas A&M. You feel any different about the Fighting Tigers than you did last time we talked on Thursday of last week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we knew that, look, as long as Jump and Holman pitch well, you're going to have a chance to win every round of the postseason until you get to Omaha, right? But the offense playing the way it is, I think it is heartening from an LSU standpoint. Because it's not just like guys are doing things that are out of their element. I mean, we can't bank on Michael Braswell hitting leadoff home runs every game, but everyone seems to be doing what it is they do well. Now, would this offense prefer to have Dylan Cruz and Gavin Dugas, the guys they left off last year's team? Absolutely. But it's starting to feel a little bit like last year's team where you've got guys who are just doing what they're supposed to do and not doing anything out of the ordinary. It's just everyone playing their best baseball right now, which is a cliche that I hate to use, but it does feel apt with this team now. That being said, I do think we will start to learn something today a little more in how do they play when you don't get an out-of-body pitching performance from one of your two top guys, because how well they do on the mound can also affect the lineup, because that's when guys start to press a little bit. Guys start to try to do too much because it's like, hey, we got to score 8 or 9 runs to win today. So that can throw things a little bit out of whack. So I'm kind of interested to see how that ends up playing out on the field today.
Any merit to the fact that the two teams that LSU has beaten kind of used their games as bullpen games and didn't necessarily throw weekend starters at the Tigers?
I mean, sure, if you want to nitpick it, but still talented guys. I mean, still better than a lot of pitchers you're going to see in a regional and perhaps in a super if you get that far against a non-SEC team anyway. So I would look at the bright side of it. I mean, is it a data point? Yes. Let's not get too carried away about it. I think it's still a team that, is going to have to, play better on balance than they have all season to win a regional. But now they're in a situation where we've seen the blueprint, and it hasn't happened very often this season where we've seen a blueprint that looks sustainable and looks like a winning blueprint on an Omaha level anyway.
Is there a chance that LSU could play their way to a 2 seed this week?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, RPI jumped a decent bit yesterday. I mean, when that RPI starts to get into, the 20, inside the top 20, it's going to be hard not to make them a 2, frankly, because that's just kind of the precedent there. And I think the committee is a little more willing to go outside of precedent when it comes to things like, let's pull at this team that has an RPI of 52. Let's go ahead and pull them in, or let's host this team even though their RPI is 20. I think Auburn was an example of that last year. When it comes to actually seeding the bracket, though, they do tend to hew pretty closely to things like RPI. So as long as that number stays in range, I do think there's a good chance they end up being a 2, which obviously helps, because then you're not in a situation where you could, if you're LSU, you're less likely to be in a situation where you have a ACC host and a Big 12 2 seed, 2 other talented teams. You're more likely to have a mid-major 3 seed and what have you, and you like that path a little bit better.
Tyler Pitzer is going to get the ball for South Carolina. They've used a lot of the guys who have started on the weekend and been their main bullpen guys. Chris Veach comes to mind there, who threw 66 pitches back on Tuesday. You know anything about Pitzer and what LSU's up against today?
Yeah, it's a good arm. It's not a great arm in terms of current. I think he's a freshman. He's going to be better as time goes on, but he's just not a finished product. It's going to be a low 90s fastball. It's kind of a weird short arm, quick arm delivery. So you got to kind of be ready quick because the ball will jump on you a little bit. Probably not a guy who's stretched out to go more than 4 or 5 if he's really cruising. So you're going to have a chance, LSU is, to get into the bullpen, and that's what you're looking for, because you mentioned it. They've fired a lot of their bullets. I mean, Gainey has thrown, and Beach has thrown, Ty Good has thrown, and those are kind of their guys. So they're going to have to cobble it together today unless they get something crazy out of Pitzer, which I don't necessarily foresee.
All right, let's talk about some other teams in the SEC and where they sit with the selection committee. How are the Florida Gators feeling and looking right now?
Nervous. I think ultimately probably get in. It's just tough to look at there's an argument to be made. Now, I don't know. I'm not necessarily making this argument, but I can hear it, which is just that if you're going to look at the number 1, or at least early in this week, the number 1 strength of schedule in the country and say, nah, no thanks, that seems strange to me that the committee would do that. So, but I do think they're a little bit nervous because you just don't know. I mean, they dropped to 30 in RPI immediately after that loss, when they got eliminated. Now, they at least as of last night, bumped up a couple spots, but they could get jumped this week because everybody else is playing, or a lot of other teams are playing. So if they're in the mid-30s by the end of the week, which could happen, then you start to get a little bit nervous because you start to use the precedence of, that Alabama team that got in at 12-17 in the regular season. They were an RPI of 32. So that's kind of feels like a mark of, like, you start to dip below that, you start to sweat it out a little bit. Ultimately, you make me pick here. I think the SEC is getting 11. I think the results this week have broken in favor of that, because the teams that I felt needed it most, a team like South Carolina, a team like Vanderbilt, have gotten the wins they need. So you made me choose. I think the SEC is getting 11 this year, but Florida is the one that you might need to hold your breath a little bit on Selection Monday for.
You think Mississippi State has done enough to get a regional in Starkville?
I think so. It's just going to come down to whether or not where that RPI falls. I mean, you won, whatever it is now, 19 SEC games. Right. To me, that's like a no-brainer. Yeah. But is that going to be the trump card, or is it going to be, hey, their RPI is 22, and we just can't let an SEC team host with a 22 RPI? I can't really predict what the committee does there, but yeah, that's not a host, a 19-win SEC team. I'm not really sure how, but it does go back to, like, hey, you know what? Win your midweek games against Austin Peay. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. And Jay Johnson's been banging the drum for that argument for his team, which is like, we went 26-3 or whatever it is against non-conference opponents. They took care of business against pretty much every team they should have beaten. Mississippi State didn't, and I think that's ultimately what's costing them right now. So if there isn't a regional in Starkville, that's what's going to have cost them.
Jay's had his talking points memorized for a couple of weeks now, and he's played all the hits after wins for his team. But I don't think it matters anymore at this point. Now, what about Georgia as a top 8? They go one and out in Hoover.
I sense that they're going to be on the wrong side of top 8.
Okay.
Now, we'll see how the week goes, but, it's a situation where they get beaten out by Oregon State. What if Oregon State wins the Pac-12 tournament? NC State's playing really well right now. Like, does NC State sneak into the top 8? It just feels like there's too many teams kind of sniffing around between, previous projections that the 10 to 16 hosts. There's too many of those teams that are still alive and still playing well for me to feel very comfortable about it. So I suspect they end up on the wrong side of the top 8, but you never know. I mean, ultimately it's just going to come down to what everyone else does.
It is. It's going to be interesting for sure. Who do you think the best team in the SEC is?
Tennessee, I think. I mean, the talent when the pitching comes together is just so good. Like, it looks different than it used to, but there's no let up in that lineup. They know who they are on the mound in a way that I don't even think Texas A&M knows, right? I mean, Prager's going today. We'll see how long he goes. But the rest of their rotation, as you and I have talked about, it's kind of a mystery. But they keep trying to do it the traditional way, right? Like they'll throw out Lampkin out there. They'll throw out Shane Fideo, and they're trying to get 5, 6, 7 innings out of them. Meanwhile, Tennessee's like, look, we don't have Dolander and Burns anymore. So, yeah, Beam is going to do that. He's going to get a 6 or 7 or whatever. But everyone else, like Stamos, is going to throw 2 innings, and then he's out. And Xander Sechrist, at the first sign of trouble, he's gone. They've done a really good job managing that pitching staff. I think they know who they are, and they don't have to be amazing in order to win games with the way their offense is swinging the bat. So it's a boring answer because we have number 1 in the country, but I think it's Tennessee.
2 more here, Joe. We appreciate your time as you dodge the noise over there at the Hoover Met. I've heard Mark Etheridge over the last couple of weeks talk about the committee and how they're going to handle the SEC as the talent continues to pour in. I mean, the obvious guys, Tommy White and Braden Montgomery and Thatcher Herd and Gage Jump. Like, you've seen so many great players from other conferences go into the SEC, and we all know the SEC is better than every other league, but will the committee cater to that when it's time? Do you think that discussion is a real one when the time comes? Like, I'm struggling to ask the question. It's like, are they going to just go, yeah, we got to put 11 in because they're all the best teams, and we got to give this host site to Mississippi State because they're really good and they've won this many games? Like, do you think that conversation is shifting that way?
I think so, and I think that is why the coaches, it's not just Jay. I mean, Jay's got his talking points the most rehearsed,
yeah.
But there are other coaches in the league who have said similar things, and I think the reason why is because they see what's coming where, hey, we're going to have a 16-team league where it's entirely possible we've got 13 or more regional quality clubs. And so I do think getting 11 this year is important to them because you're starting to lay the seeds for moving forward. Let's look at 12. Let's look at 13. Whereas if they cap it at 10 again, I do think it becomes a little more of a hurdle for the committee, and there may not be the political will in that room because let's remember this is a political process in a lot of ways. That if they cap at 10 this year, it's going to be a little bit harder to jump to 12 next time or to jump to 13. So I do think there is a little bit of a portion of the SEC doing a little bit of, like I said, laying the groundwork for future years getting 12 or 13 because they get 11 this year. I don't just think it's because they think they have 11 regional caliber teams, though I think they do. I also think they're looking at the big picture.
Speaking of big picture, Ole Miss won a national championship 2 years ago. They did not qualify for Hoover last year, and they are not going to be in the NCAA tournament this year. What is in the immediate future for that baseball program?
Trying to figure out a formula that works, because right now they're kind of caught in between. They're trying to do portal in the offense, and it's been a little hit and miss. They've had some guys who worked out pretty well. They've had other guys who just haven't clicked for whatever reason. But they're sticking to a traditional recruiting method on the mound. They're still developing young pitchers. You know, they're trying to bring along Grayson Saunier and JT Quinn and Wes Mendez, guys like that. And right now, neither one is really working for them. Now, it hasn't been that long ago since they had McCasey and Hoagland in the rotation, so I don't want to ding them too hard, but it's been a while. Like, where's the next dude, I guess, is the question I'm asking on the mound for Ole Miss. And then in the offense, like, to me, you should be able to get enough blue chip guys out of high school that you need to look. There are good players to be found at mid-majors and what have you. That's not what I'm saying, but it's like, do you need to go to Mercer to find a middle-of-the-order bat or FAU? Like, or can you just develop them yourself? Now, in the post-game press conference, their loss, Mike Bianco was asked directly, do you anticipate coming back? And he said, you'll have to ask my boss, but I anticipate being back. Now, whether that's him just being stubborn and saying, I want to get this right, I want to fix this, or if it's a little bit of posturing of like, look, I'm not stepping aside, so if you want to make a move, you're going to have to pay me or whatever it is. Either way, though, like, clearly this isn't going to be a ride off into the sunset and say my goodbyes and move on. Like, I think Bianco's sticking around for the long term. They just, or at least the intermediate term, and they just need to find a formula that works because this one doesn't seem to me to be working.
Enjoy the rest of the week in Hoover, Joe, and we'll talk next week before the NCAA tournament.
All right, see you, buddy.
Joe Healy, D1 Baseball, SEC Extra. Those guys are all over it from Hoover, every single angle. Highway to Hoover podcast. You got feature stories, breakdowns, predictions. They do a fantastic job, and we appreciate Joe giving us a little time here on this Thursday. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's Markets. We'll come back and close out hour number 1 coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is that website. Tell you about it every single day. Go to OneBathAndClosets.com. You can see pictures of the great work that they do. You can see testimonials from their satisfied clients, and you can request a free consultation with David Duvall and his team. He's been doing this for 30 years, redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. Maybe it's a full-scale bathroom renovation you're looking for. They can handle that. It's just one phone call to One Bath and Closets, and they're there for you. Or maybe it's just something simple like a tub-to-shower conversion. You don't ever use your bathtub. It's kind of dirty and old. Rip it out of there. Put in a gorgeous new glass walk-in shower, changes the look of your bathroom, changes the functionality of your bathroom, and add some value to your home as well. And the best news, $1,000 off to listeners of the Hunt Palmer Show. Tell David Duvall and his team that you heard about him on the Hunt Palmer Show. $1,000 off your new bathroom, your new closet. It's One Bath and Closets. Check them out online, onebathandclosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers win and advance in Hoover. It'll be LSU against South Carolina. We're counting you down with the Tigers and Gamecocks. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
Shout out to Rouse's. Always a great time to get on by Rouse's. You're going to be celebrating with the friends and family on a holiday weekend. Headed out to the lake. You're having people over, watching some baseball. Get your groceries over there at Rouse's. Great for heading over to parties. They got sandwich trays, meat pie trays, fruit trays as well. You got cookie cakes over there. Lots of great things to get your hands on over at Rouse's. Download the Rouse's app. Makes shopping so much easier. I personally love going into Rouse's to do shopping because it's clean. They got great selection. It's a great shopping experience. We always go to the one Burbank and Lee. But if you don't have time to make that happen, you do your shopping right there at the touch of a button on the app. Have your personal shopper go in and do the shopping for you. Pull right up next to the front door. They hand it to you. As long as you spend $35, don't spend an extra cent on the curbside pickup. Rouse's, the official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Beck, I want to talk briefly. We don't have all the information here, but it's been interesting over the last 5-7 days to look into this Scottie Scheffler situation in Louisville. We now have some video. The one video that we can see shows a cop running at Scottie Scheffler's vehicle, and it appears that he strikes the vehicle with his hand. The cops are saying this was after the alleged dragging took place. That's nowhere to be seen on the dash cam or the pole cam that we've seen. But it doesn't appear that the charges are going to be dropped. That was the reporting from Kevin Van Valkenburg over at No Laying Up, that it appeared the charges would be dropped. They haven't been. It doesn't sound like they're going to be. It's just kind of odd.
Yeah, it is, and they also Louisville Metro also mentioned there will be corrective action taken against the officer who did not have his body cam on recording during the incident. So that, I feel like that probably would have cleared up a lot of things if that would have been on, but obviously not possible. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, it's going to be unfortunate for Scottie because he's going to be going into some pretty important events soon here in the next few months. And he's going to have this hanging over him the whole time and having to show up for court dates.
I will tell you that this was my takeaway from the video, because you can't see a lot of the interaction between the officer and Scottie Scheffler. What you can tell, and this is my opinion, is that it was a very chaotic scene.
Yes.
It's dark, it's raining, and there are lights flashing everywhere. There are cars and vans and officers out on foot. Like, there's just a lot going on. And clearly, Scottie's intention was to not follow the traditional traffic laws. He was going to go around.
Yes.
And it was a chaotic scene. Now, exactly what he saw, what he knows, and what happened, and where the dragging took place, and I use air quotes there, that's not available. But like, you can tell from looking at the video that like there's a lot going on at 5:20 in the morning in the dark. Like, that was evident to me.
Yeah. That's also going to make it even harder, I think, just because of just the whole like the darkness surrounding, and then Scheffler. He had to have been confused about whether or not this guy was even a police officer or not. Apparently he was wearing a large yellow trench coat, so it was hard to see that he was an officer. But I think at the end of the day, it's just going to come down to whether or not Scottie if he actually acknowledged this guy, talked to him, and after talking to him, decided to just pull away anyway, because it's kind of hard for me to understand why he would do that. But we may never know. I mean, he's probably going to be told by his representation to not say that, so
Correct.
We'll see.
And his attorney did say today, like, there will be no settlement in this case.
Yeah.
Like, if we're either going to litigate this because he did nothing wrong, or they're going to drop the charges. There will be no, oh yeah, we'll take a plea bar. Like, I mean, it's a felony, so like, we're not going to do anything to settle this outside of court. Like, you're either going to go to court and we're going to take this case with you, or you're going to drop these charges. It felt like last week that the charges were eventually going to be dropped. It doesn't appear that way now, and we don't have all the information, just a little bit of a video that came out. But in an odd situation surrounding the world's number one golfer, who I guess it kind of took it out of him on Saturday. He used that adrenaline to play really well on Friday morning, but then Saturday he shot his first over par round literally of the year. So appears that it did have its effect. U.S. Open coming up in 3 weeks at Pinehurst. So that's it for our number one here on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Over in Hoover, Gavin Grahovic, the SEC's Freshman of the Year, hit an opposite field home run for the Texas A&M Aggies. They lead Tennessee 1-0 in an elimination game. LSU and South Carolina will follow this one sometime around 4:30. We'll talk about South Carolina coming up at the top of our number 2. You missed any of our number 1, you can always catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. All of our shows are archived there in their entirety every single day. You got Off the Bench, you got Live at Lunch, you got Hunt Palmer Show, you got After Further Review as well. All of them are archived there. If you're an app person, that's all right. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. You can always find us on YouTube as well. I opened the show talking about the importance of today for Thatcher Herd, both as a professional and what that means for him with the scouts looking, and for LSU's baseball team as they look for alternatives on the mound. Talked to Luke Johnson about the Saints, their deal with the Superdome and that disagreement, plus a little OTA talk with about about Kendra Miller and Taysom Hill. If you want to catch that and all our Saints talk, you can find it on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. Then we had Joe Healy check in from the Hoover Met over in Alabama. He's, of course, part of the SEC Extra team with D1 Baseball and feeling pretty good about the LSU Fighting Tigers. So catch all that on demand if you missed it. We're going to step aside for Sports Center pretty quickly. And then we'll have hour number 2. Chris Blair will join us from the Hoover Met, and we'll talk a little LSU South Carolina as well. Come back with us. It's a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $11,000 off the new 23 Dodge Charger. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $11,000 off the powerful new Charger. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
BRAC teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. BRAC, your #1 park system in the nation.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Doug Brown. Game 2 of the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals tonight in Boston. The Celtics lead the Pacers in the series after capitalizing on Indiana mistakes in Game 1. ESPN's Michael Wilbon thinks the series could already be over.
I think they gave the series away because I just don't know that you recover even emotionally from something like that. The team made all kinds of mistakes. They turned it over 21, 22 times. Rick Carlisle said, put it on me. There's a bushel full of mistakes.
Michael Wilbon on PTI. Game 2 coverage tonight. The Celtics and Pacers tipping off just after 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio and TV. The Cavaliers fire head coach J.B. Bickerstaff today. The Cavs reached the second round of the playoffs for the first time in 6 years. Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. Game 1 of the Western Final for the Stars and Oilers in Dallas. Roope Hintz out for the Stars with an upper body injury. And the Devils hire Sheldon Keefe as the team's new head coach. ESPN's Emily Kaplan reports Keefe will get a 4-year deal. He was fired as the Maple Leafs coach 2 weeks ago.
Hey, it's your resident Super Bowl champ, Chris Candy. Coming on Friday, Anthony Edwards and my Wolves drop Game 1. I'll tell you why I'm not worried about them just yet. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Glad you were hanging out with us. Working towards the holiday weekend. I'm out of here tomorrow, so it's a long 4-day weekend for me. By the time I'm back in this chair, LSU will have its NCAA tournament fate, which we will learn at 11 o'clock in the morning on Monday. Over at Hoover right now, SEC tournament continuing to roll on. Tennessee has just evened things up with Texas A&M. Sack fly to right field for the Vols has knotted the score at 1 apiece. LSU and South Carolina coming up in the next game. We'll talk about that game with Chris Blair in 15 minutes. In fact, we'll talk about it a little bit right now. So I'll give you kind of a look at the South Carolina Gamecocks and where they are from a pitching perspective. South Carolina has kind of used their guys in the same way that LSU has used Luke Holman, Gage Jump, Griffin Herring, Gavin Guidry. Like, they've used their main dudes. South Carolina has done much of the same. You've seen Ty Good go. He's been kind of their most used bullpen guy. You've seen Eli Jones go. He's been a weekend starter for them. You've seen Garrett Gainey go. He's leads the team is second in the team in appearances in SEC games. Chris Veach is first in appearances out of the bullpen in SEC games. He's pitched as well. Matthew Becker went 39 pitches. All these guys, Ty Good, Garrett Gainey, Dylan Eskew, Eli Jones, Chris Veach, Matthew Becker. I don't think any of those names mean anything to you, but those are their A guys, and they've all thrown over 28 pitches. Veach threw 66 back on Tuesday. So most of those guys are shut down. South Carolina is not in a spot where they need to push it. They were probably on the bubble on Tuesday. They've won 2 games. Their RPI is really good. They've now bumped up that SEC win total. They're going to be in the field. They're fine. Florida is the only one who's kind of sweating this thing. So I don't expect South Carolina to push any of these pitchers out of urgency to try to make the NCAA tournament. I think you're going to see a South Carolina team that just uses some of the guys that have not pitched yet to this point, even if they're not, quote-unquote, their guys. So the first guy for South Carolina is going to be Tyler Pitzer. Tyler Pitzer is a freshman right-hander. He, this year in SEC games, has made 9 appearances, just 3 starts. He started 3 SEC games from March 24th to April the 6th. They were against Vanderbilt, at Bama, and Texas A&M. I'll just give you the quick lines from those games. Against Vanderbilt, he was excellent. That was his first SEC start. He goes 6 1/3, 3 hits, no earned runs in that game, 9 strikeouts, and 1 walk. I went back and watched a little bit of the highlights of that game. Fastball 90-91, a pretty good bender. He got a couple strikeouts in the first inning with a good slider. But his next 2 starts weren't quite as good. At Alabama, 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs. He had 1 walk and 5 strikeouts. And then against Texas A&M, just 2 1/3 innings pitched, 4 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. And that was his last chance as a weekend starter for South Carolina. The rest of his outings were out of the bullpen. If you look at his SEC-only statistics, 6.55 ERA. In 22 innings, he's given up giving up 23 hits and 18 runs, 16 earned, 13 walks is a pretty high number there, and 28 strikeouts. So talented freshman arm that LSU is going to see today, but not necessarily an overpowering dude that you've really got to be concerned with. And then out of the bullpen, you're not going to see, in all likelihood, they're A relievers. So LSU's offense should be in a pretty good spot today. As I told you earlier in the first hour, the ball's jumping a little bit in the Hoover Met today. There were a lot of home runs in the first game, and we've already seen Texas A&M with an opposite field home run early in that game. So ball's jumping a little bit. Should be a pretty good offensive day for an LSU team that's starting to gain a little bit of confidence offensively. But South Carolina's been good offensively as well, and it's really been spearheaded by Cole Messina. Ethan Petrie is the headliner for South Carolina, but Messina has been fantastic as well. He was actually their leading hitter in SEC play. He hit .330 against league opponents, hit 6 home runs, slugged .616 with an on-base of .453. So his OPS north of 1,000 in league games, and he's white hot right now. Cole Messina in the SEC tournament, 2 games. He's 6 for 8 with a double and 2 home runs. He's driven in 8 runs thus far. So if LSU's looking to kind of steer around somebody in this lineup, it is Cole Messina. But you've obviously got to worry about Ethan Petrie, who hit 9 home runs in league games to lead the South Carolina team. I talked about South Carolina a lot during my SEC power rankings all year long. South Carolina, when you look at the league stat sheets, is not really, really good at anything except they walk a lot. And they're not really, really bad at anything. They sit there between 5th and 10th in like every statistic. And so that kind of nets itself out as a team that was like a 13 and 17 team. That's kind of the way LSU is. Now, LSU is an outlier. They strike out a lot of batters. They're high in that ranking. But as far as all the other ones go, they're kind of middle of the road. And that was kind of my point when LSU was sitting there at 3 and 12. I was like, they're 3 and 12, but like the statistics say they're right about average. And it turns out LSU lost to the really good teams they played and beat the bad teams that they played. And South Carolina's kind of been the same deal. It's an interesting scheduling quirk that has happened here in Hoover in that LSU did not play 3 teams in the SEC in the regular season, and they played them 1, 2, 3 in Hoover. You opened up with Georgia, who you didn't see, and then you played Kentucky, you didn't see, and now you're playing South Carolina, who you didn't see. But I think LSU today is facing a team that's a little bit low on pitching, that's not a dominant offensive team and not a desperate team in any way, kind of the same way that LSU is in that way. So it should be just a pretty straightforward ball game, and I feel like LSU should be in a pretty good spot. I went deep into the decision to pitch Thatcher Herd to open the show today, and I just feel like this is a monster outing for him and for this team. You're not facing Tennessee. You're not facing Texas A&M, one of these juggernaut offenses. It's a good offense and one that will provide a test, but it's a big spot for Thatcher Herd for sure. But LSU is in pretty good shape beyond Thatcher Herd. Justin Lohr has not pitched. Nate Ackenhausen has not pitched. Kristen Little has not pitched. Sam Dutton has not pitched. And then you got Herd. Like, I just rattled off 5 guys there who you absolutely can go to, and most of those guys are willing to give you 6 to 10 outs. So I think that LSU is in a fine place to pitch today. We'll see how today goes and how LSU's lined up for the rest of this thing, because after this one, you start to feel like you're pushing it a little bit. Now, I know that Griffin Herring is probably available tomorrow. He would have had Wednesday and Thursday off. Certainly, if you're able to win today and you have Friday off and you don't come back till Saturday, Griffin Herring is very, very, very able to come out and pitch for you in that circumstance. I don't know if they'll push it today. Jay Johnson obviously showed a ton of urgency in the first 2 games of this tournament. Like he realized, like, we're in a little bit of a tenuous spot. We got to go. I think all of that urgency is gone now from the perspective of the selection committee. Now, if Jay just wants these guys to continue to ride this wave of confidence, this wave of really strong play, I get that too. I've been pretty adamant that I don't necessarily think that SEC tournament performance is an indicator of what you're going to see the following week in the NCAA tournament. There's too much evidence to the contrary. But certainly good vibes are better than bad vibes, right? And LSU's got plenty of good vibes right now, both on the mound and the way they're swinging the bats. Started last week with Ole Miss, and it's kind of rode into Hoover this week. So I'm excited to watch this game. Well, I won't watch a lot of it. I'll be driving for most of it, but I'm excited to pay attention to this game. It's a low stress game for LSU and probably an important one for Thatcher Herd, and you're playing a team that's a little bit compromised from a pitching perspective. So hopefully the guys got some rest. They get up early for 2 days in a row. Now you're pushed back to that 4:30 start. We'll see how they handle things over in Hoover later on this afternoon. Chris Blair is going to be there. He's the voice of the Tigers, of course. He'll be on the call. You can listen to the game on Eagle 98.1. That is our sister station. Pregame sometime around 4 o'clock with Chris Blair and Bill Franquez from the Hoover Met. So let's go to Hoover, Alabama, coming up here, and we'll talk to Chris Blair about this one and how he's seen this Tiger team come alive over the last month. That's next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments on the road to the championship. The exclusive sportsbook of ESPN is the only place to find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the playoffs. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700. In partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team. And backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Power up your next project with John Deere Deals by Sunshine. Whether you're working hard or playing hard, our knowledgeable team will help you find the right product for you. Ask us about our amazing tractor package promotions. Learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD.
Handgriff, join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Jimmy has the day off, but we will have former LSU coach Paul Maneri along with Bruce Marshall and Troy Macker. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
You know, it's better than one trip to Hoover, 2 trips to Hoover. We had Joe Healy in hour number 1. We'll go right on back to Chris Blair. The voice of the Tigers, they get ready to head to the Hoover Met LSU in South Carolina about 2 hours and 15 minutes from right now, assuming all goes to plan, which it has for 2.5 days thus far. Chris, how are you?
I'm great, Hunt. Yeah, I mean, how about this scheduling? The weather hasn't been broiling yet. The weather has stayed dry, and for the most part, these games have stayed pretty much on schedule. So having said that, following you having said that, it'll all go to you-know-what here in just a little bit.
Nothing like that. That last game ended at about 1:40 a.m., which is an annual tradition. LSU hasn't been in that spot just yet. Won a couple of games at 9:30 in the morning. You've been around the team. A little different feeling now than it was 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got a kind of sense of it going into that last week, just being around them during the week leading up to the Ole Miss series. And again, I don't care what Ole Miss's record is. I really didn't care who the opponent was for that final weekend, Hunt. I just knew that sweeping in the SEC, whether you're at home or on the road, is just a difficult thing to do. But there was a very, I don't know, I don't want to say, I mean, it was loose. It was laid back. Guys were smiling, but there was a real sense of, guys, our backs are against the wall here. We kind of enjoy playing baseball. We're starting to play our best of the season. But this thing could all end if we don't start putting wins back to back to back. And obviously they have, winning 16 of their last 21, 5 in a row now, including going back to last weekend. I think it's a very workmanlike approach, and that's really what I've seen from this team, having been 3 days here in Hoover.
How dangerous is this team because of Holman and Jump?
Well, they're very good. I mean, Jay has said it for weeks now, and he told me earlier in the season, he said, look, Gage Jump is just now coming into his own. He didn't have a whole lot of experience at the college level, when he got here on campus. So he's going to get better. We know where his ceiling is, and it's nowhere close at this moment. And so as the season went along, I mean, he certainly positioned himself to be in the conversation, one of the best pitchers in college baseball. And Luke Holman, of course, has been what I consider the most consistent of all the pitchers of LSU this season. And the way they've been pitching here of late, yeah, I mean, I can just imagine. I don't know what's going to happen next Monday morning when the bracket comes out. But, if LSU is sent somewhere as a 3 seed, that host team's going to want to know what they did to the NCAA committee.
That's absolutely true. You didn't sign up for Jump or Holman in that second game if you're a regional host, but that may be what happens if LSU can figure some things out over the next week. Let's stick with pitching. Thatcher Herd's going to get the ball today. How important is this start for him?
Oh, it's huge, and I'm everybody around, at the team hotel is hoping that it's the Thatcher that we saw a little bit of on Saturday, because that looked like the Thatcher Herd of 2023. Towards the end of the season and obviously into the postseason. So that's what you're hoping for, because it's been done. You've seen it before. It's not as if you're just hoping eventually he catches fire. It's just, hey, can he get back to where he was? And, again, I like what I saw on Saturday, albeit a very small sample size. But, man, it would be huge if he could have a good performance today. I don't know how deep he'll go. I mean, it's a South Carolina team that, frankly, I thought had more question marks than LSU did coming into Hoover as far as the 5 teams on the bubble having, a terrible losing streak finishing the regular season. So they've got the same kind of chip on their shoulder, or sense of urgency, probably a better term, as LSU has. The first 2 games, obviously, as we all know, Wes Johnson said he let the Tigers win on Tuesday, which was awfully nice of him.
Can I stop you there? What was that press conference? What was he talking about?
I don't know. It was beyond bizarre. I was actually watching it as I was leaving the Hoover Met, and then when I got back to the hotel, I said, wait a minute, maybe I was rushing to get out of the throngs of SEC fans and didn't hear everything quite right, then watched it again in my hotel room and thought, my goodness, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to ask him, but that was tongue-in-cheek, of course. But again, against Kentucky yesterday, it's a Kentucky team that most of the work they needed to do, they had already done. I mean, most people say obviously they're a top 8 seed, but, they may be the national number 1 seed. So my concern about Thatcher Herd is, A, I'm hoping that he can get back to what we know he can do. And secondly, it's a South Carolina team that I still believe Coach Kingston and company think they got more to prove. So they're going to have a different edge to them than I think either Georgia, obviously, according to Coach Johnson, and Kentucky.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm fascinated to see what Thatcher Herd can do today. Offensively, Tommy White is on another level at this point. How much fun is it watching him swing the bat these days?
Yeah, batting .565, 4 home runs, 2 grand slams, I think 2 doubles and a triple thrown in there over the last 5 games. So pretty doggone good, and it's fun to watch. I mean, I've been around Tommy a good bit, obviously, in the hotel at breakfast and then at team meals, and he's very locked in. And he's a guy that's typically pretty even keel, just kind of. He's not a big rah-rah guy a lot of the times. He does on the field, of course, but behind the scenes, he's pretty laid back. But he's been pretty vocal about, guys, we're here. We got a big win on Tuesday. We got another big win on Wednesday. Let's just go all the way through the weekend. And so it's been fun to watch what he does. And, again, 20 runs on 21 hits in the first 2 games. I mean, this offense certainly is playing as well as they have. And hopefully when you look back at the last, again, 5 weeks of the regular season, I mean, you kind of could see them trending up. And hopefully they haven't, hit the crescendo just yet, but it's fun to watch.
I hear Jacob Hester oftentimes talk about the quote-unquote freshman wall in all these sports, and he suggested that potentially Jerry Jones may have gotten there a couple of weeks ago, and he scuffled a little bit. Maybe one big swing yesterday got him out of that funk?
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I think Jay Johnson had the best answer. I mean, my goodness, 23 home runs. I'd love to slump like that. I would too. But truth be told, I think he and Hayden Travinski, the last couple of weeks, again, those 2 guys, along with Tommy White, to me, when you look at this team, are the 3 guys who have been the most consistent. I mean, they have kind of done number-wise what you expected them to do. There's some other guys who were newcomers or had more responsibility that, those guys were hitting home runs, and a lot of them were solo shots, throughout the season. So I'm not going to get too hard on Jared Jones because I know at any given moment, just like yesterday, I mean, he can make you pay and he can hurt your team badly. And he's shown that enough, not only last year, but certainly this year. So I think Jared's just fine.
It seemed like a long time ago, but right when we got ready to start this thing back in February, Josh Pearson was supposed to be the second baseman. Now that seems like a distant memory because Stephen Milam's been so good as a freshman. What have you seen from him over the course of 4 months?
Stephen Milam?
Yeah.
Oh, he's incredible. I mean, I've asked Jay on a number of occasions, like, again, where do you see him going? And he was perfect. This is why I love being around Jay, because he just knows the game. He gets a good feel for his players. And he told me, 4 or 5 weeks ago at TJ Ribs, he said, look, he's a very good hitter and he's going to improve. He's going to be one of those guys, and he's already doing it. He's going to be one of the guys that is just going to be a threat to go anywhere at the field with the bat. And you're going to start to see the power come along because he's adjusting to this top-tier college pitching. But he's done a phenomenal job batting over 300. But he said the power's coming. And lo and behold, that following weekend, he hits his first home run at Missouri.
Yep.
And then he hits the first home run of the SEC baseball tournament. I'm not sure anybody had that on their bingo card coming into the week. So he's phenomenal. And what he does in the field is, he just doesn't look like a freshman. In fact, yesterday, Bill Franquez, Mr. LSU Baseball, he and I had the same conversation about freshmen that start out really good, then maybe they slow down a little bit to start a conference play, and then hit that wall. Stephen Milam has not done that. I mean, he has been consistent throughout. And the numbers that really bear that out is not only his batting average, but with runners on base, runners in scoring position, he does not look like a freshman who was at the plate.
He's pretty good. Obviously, we've heard Jay Johnson in press conferences talk about his team relative to the NCAA tournament and the bubble. And obviously, he managed with a lot of urgency starting his weekend guys on Tuesday and Wednesday in this tournament. Do you think he feels like that pressure is off at this point?
Yeah, I think so, yes. To answer your question, now that I noodle it through for a second, yes. The basic premise is, I think, taken care of. I mean,
yeah.
As I said yesterday, if LSU is not named on Monday during the brackets, then it is clear to me the NCAA committee is not interested in having the best teams in college baseball. Yeah. Now, do I think there's some work to be done to maybe improve that seeding? I think that's the mission now. And I think Jay, I saw him before we left the hotel just a little while ago and joked with him that, let's see how we fare in the afternoon because we look pretty good at 9:30 in the morning. And he just was his mindset is we need to get to the championship game. So, I mean, I think there's a reason behind that. We've gotten to this point. Let's go win it all.
So do you think that Griffin Herring's available at the end of the game today?
Yeah, I would think so. I think. Now, the only caveat to that is because you're in double elimination now.
Right.
You're going to see a pretty good team. And, chances are with the top seeds going down in their debuts, you're going to have a hungry team just like the South Carolina team. So I wouldn't be shocked, but there also may be more at play for what's down the road.
How's the LSU contingent?
Oh, they love Hoover, man. I mean, they were there. The LSU fans are there. The RVs are there. The tents are already out. I mean, I think we'll start to see a larger contingency of purple and gold now that we've reached this point. But they're already here. And frankly, not that I could ever imagine a time when LSU isn't here. There's still going to be some LSU people here just because they love this tournament. The town does a great job. The renovations over the last several years at the Hoover Met, I mean, it really is an enjoyable time. And I say it all the time. If you've never taken in the SEC tournament, which I hadn't until 2016, it's worth the trip. It is absolutely worth the trip. Not quite Omaha, but it's still worth the trip to come over and watch some of the best baseball players, at least at the college level, on the planet.
Have a great call today. We'll talk next week. Thanks, Chris.
You got it, Hunt.
He's Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers, LSU in South Carolina, about 2 hours away from right now. Still knotted up at 1. It's Texas A&M and Tennessee. Those two teams playing for their SEC tournament lives, but with not much else at stake. Both his teams will be a national seed when the brackets appear on Monday. Got 30 minutes left to go here. Come back with us on a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Just give yourself the peace of mind of knowing the power is not going to go out. Boudreaux's Electric can do that. They're a certified Generac dealer. They are a premier Generac generator dealer. It means they're in the top 3% nationwide. Start that process. Give them a call. Have somebody come out, assess your needs in terms of square footage and what you want powered when the power does go out, and they'll get the right Generac generator for you. And every Generac generator that they sell you comes with a free 7 to 10 year warranty. 7 to 10 years. Got the peace of mind to know the power is going to go out, and if something goes wrong, you've got a warranty right there. And in addition to that, they're going to monitor that generator 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so that if there is some sort of hiccup, whether you need that generator right now or not, they're going to know about it. They can come out, service that, so when the power does go out, yours cranks right on. It's Boudreaux's Electric. You can give them a call. The Gonzales location is coming soon. They've been working in Donaldsonville for 40 years. It's 985-397-1562. 985-397-1562. That's my friends at Boudreaux's Electric.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Thursday's AFR. Tigers win and advance in Hoover. It'll be LSU against South Carolina. We're counting you down to the Tigers and Gamecocks. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live After 5 has been back this spring. Tomorrow will be the last performance, however, in downtown Baton Rouge for the free concert series from 5 to 8 p.m. This season was filled with incredible music, delicious food, talented artists, and a lively second-line parade. As I said, tomorrow, last Live After 5 will be the Michael Foster Project for Live After 5.
You are listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
So a lot of baseball to be played between now and Sunday evening. A lot of baseball, and a lot of things can change. But I thought it'd be a worthwhile exercise to just kind of go over some of the options as to where LSU may be sent in an NCAA regional. As you're all well aware, LSU cannot be sent to an SEC site. We think there are going to be 6 SEC hosts. We know for sure that Tennessee, Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Arkansas are for sure hosts. Georgia is for sure a host as well. That's 5. And I think Mississippi State, with their 2 wins here, has played themselves into a host. So that would mean 6 of the 16 sites LSU isn't eligible for. So what's next? And I think as you start to look at where they could be sent, you start to think about a couple of things. One, if LSU's a 3 seed, I've got to think they would be headed towards one of the lower seeds, meaning 13 through 16, if they're a 3, because that's a really difficult 3 to hand somebody. And I think everyone knows that. If LSU's a 2, I think you could go towards some of the better teams. And I say that because LSU still, even though they've won a lot of games in the last 5 days, they were a 10-17 SEC team a week ago. So I think you would be a week 2. I think we could all admit, and you, in terms of resume, maybe not in terms of talent, but in terms of resume, that's a pretty weak 2. So I don't know where LSU stands there. But I start to look at some of the hosts and think about what the committee does generally, and I start to have a reasonable idea of where I think they could go. I think that Santa Barbara makes a ton of sense. If Santa Barbara is the 16th host, I think sending LSU out there makes a lot of sense. We've seen the committee send LSU to Corvallis and Eugene recently. We see them send them to UCLA. It is difficult for LSU to get to some of those places. You send them to Hattiesburg, all of a sudden, that gets really difficult. But LSU was very much in the hosting mix last year, 2 years ago, and Southern Miss was towards the back end. So it makes a lot of sense that they would send LSU to Southern Miss there. I think Santa Barbara makes a ton of sense. Interesting if LSU were sent to Greenville, South Carolina to play East Carolina. I say that because East Carolina has a top 10 pick in their rotation. However, he just got out of the hospital. Apparently, due to some dry needling that they did to him, he had a partially collapsed lung. He is permitted to do some physical activity. Cliff Godwin, their head coach, yesterday said the things he's not allowed to do are go scuba diving and fly in an airplane. So I think they're okay there. I don't know if he can pitch next weekend or not. I have no idea. If he can, that's massive. If he can't, they're a completely different baseball team. So East Carolina is definitely one to watch. Indiana State, kind of the same type deal as Santa Barbara. It'd be tough for LSU fans to get to Terre Haute, Indiana. And I think LSU, could potentially be sent there as maybe a 2 seed. In this Baseball America prediction, they've got Vanderbilt going there as a 2 seed, which also makes some sense. I think that checks out. Oklahoma State is somewhere that you've seen LSU forecast to for sure. I don't think LSU is going to go to Tallahassee. Here's why. I think Florida is going to Tallahassee. They do that stuff all the time. How many times have we seen A&M in Texas in the same regional? We saw A&M in Texas both in the regional in Houston a few years ago. We've seen Miami and Florida paired in supers all the time. I just feel like you always see those two teams together in regionals. Florida State's really good. Florida's right there on the bubble. I think Florida's going to Tallahassee. I don't think LSU is going to Tallahassee. Charlottesville, maybe. NC State is very interesting. Tommy White, of course, played at NC State. Maybe that's kind of a storyline that they want to play off of if they're looking at it. And then you start to get towards the top, and I just don't know that if North Carolina is the number 2 seed overall, like I'm just not sure they're going to send LSU there. Maybe as a 2, but not as a 3. They're not sending LSU as a 3 seed to the number 2 national seed. That just doesn't make a ton of sense. So to me, as I look at it, I think the most likely destinations for LSU, with no inside knowledge, and these things can change at the drop of a hat, I think Santa Barbara is interesting. I think Indiana State is interesting. And I think that NC State is interesting. Now, this gets a little geographical in the Baseball America projection. They've got South Carolina going to North Carolina State, which is a pretty regional deal there. They've got them as the 2. I'm curious that Baseball America has South Carolina and Vanderbilt both as 2s, while LSU is in this field as a 3 seed in Santa Barbara. That's interesting. The thing I don't love about Santa Barbara is that it's paired with the Knoxville Regional in this, and I don't really want to go to Knoxville. That is a difficult draw. That team in that ballpark is not a lot of fun. LSU lost all 5 games they played there 3 years ago. LSU lost all 3 games it played there this year. It's just that style of play in that ballpark with that talent level. I don't love that, but unfortunately, because you put yourself in a situation where you only won 13 league games, you're beholden to this kind of stuff. Now, maybe if Kentucky goes through and wins this tournament and they're the number 1 seed, I wouldn't cry tears if we went to Lexington. I realize that's a good team. They won 22 league games. I feel like Tennessee is a tougher draw there. So it's just going to be fascinating. I would certainly rather LSU be at the box and be welcoming teams into Baton Rouge. But the places where they could be sent are fascinating, and I think a lot of it hinges on whether or not they're a really strong 3 or a weaker resume 2. And then I also kind of think, I wonder how much the committee weighs resume versus talent level, right? Because, like, LSU, talent-wise, is probably above what their resume says they are because they got off to such a slow start. So how much do you weigh the resume when you're picking it, and how much do you weigh the talent? I would imagine, since this is all a subjective process, that they're just kind of handling it, subjectively with discussion. But there are a lot of interesting deals. I'm also fascinated by East Carolina and what comes of them if their ace is not available to go. So we'll just have to see how that kind of shakes out over the next few days. Tennessee is taking a 2-1 lead over Texas A&M. Vols looking to add on. They've got runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 out with Blake Burke digging in. Loser of that one is going to go back home and await their fate as a regional host. Then we'll get to LSU and South Carolina coming up in the next ballgame. I told you a little bit about South Carolina, but I want to talk a little bit about LSU before we close things up here. I'm curious to see Hayden Travinski and Jared Jones at bats today. Hopefully those guys are coming out of it a little bit because Tommy White can't stay like this forever. He's plenty capable of doing it for a week, 2 weeks, but eventually you're not going to hit a home run every day and drive in 5 runs every day. They need the other guys to kind of pick up the slack. I like the look with Braswell at the top of the lineup. I think he's looked great there for a couple of days. And I think with Travinski and Jones clicking, this lineup becomes really, really scary all of a sudden because you can lengthen it out, and Milam's really swinging it well, and Larson's been very good. Pearson's giving you quality at bats, and even Alex Milazzo has kind of done his thing there. So really center field's the only place where you're not getting a ton of production offensively. Even Milazzo at catcher is kind of doing some things. So it's going to take everybody here because LSU, we're getting a look at it today, is a different team when Holman and Jump aren't out there, and you're going to have to win a game in a regional without those 2 guys. This is kind of an audition for that, and you're going to be playing a team in South Carolina that probably from a talent perspective looks like some of the 1 seeds. So I think this is a good comp for what we could see next week. Of course, you would like to have Herring and available and Guidry available, but you gotta use those guys maybe early in the weekend next week. You gotta win a game without those guys, and so offensively, you need to put some things together and then see what you can get from Thatcher Herd. I opened the show today talking about how big a game this is for Thatcher Herd. I still do. Maybe it's foolish. Maybe it's the definition of insanity, but I do hold out hope that there is some really good baseball left in Thatcher Herd's right arm at the collegiate level. I'm clinging to that because we've seen it. I'm not begging for something to show up that we haven't seen. I'm not begging for Cade Anderson to show up and be a star in the postseason. I'm not begging for Aiden Moffitt to show up and be a star in the postseason. I'm begging for Thatcher Herd to be some version of a star in the postseason. I'm not telling you I'm counting on it. I'm begging for it. And this would be a good start today if he can get off to it, and hopefully LSU, against a pitching staff that's a little bit compromised in South Carolina, can score some runs there in the Hoover Met. As I mentioned, the ball's jumping a little bit today in Hoover, so it'll be a fun one. Hopefully they can get underway at about 4:30 this afternoon. That's when the scheduled start time is. This game right now dragging a little bit for the score, but crazy enough, like we just haven't had those long rain delays, late nights, extra inning games, wild stuff in Hoover. This has been about as on schedule as that tournament's been for 3 days. So hopefully that remains. As I mentioned, Tennessee 2, Texas A&M 1 as they play on. And what is that, Beck? The 5th inning up there in Hoover? Is that what that says?
That is the 5th inning.
My eyes are quite poor.
5th inning just started.
Is too young to go to a baseball game.
Yeah, that's like an infant. Literally newborn looks like.
That baby is 5 weeks old and is at the Hoover Met watching baseball. But hey, good nap time. So let's take one more time out. We'll come back and we'll play some Take It or Leave It and get on down the road. It is a Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio, video, security solutions, avssla.com. Check them out on Instagram, avss_BR. It's a great opportunity on their Instagram feed to check out some of the great things that they can do that you may not even be aware that are available. That's kind of how I was. And I talked to Mitchell Fisher, and he came over to the house. So here's kind of what I'm thinking. What do you like to do? What do you do? And all of a sudden, they got up in the attic and wired the whole thing. And now we love all the work that Audio Video Security Solutions did in our home. I like to listen to music or podcasts while I cook. Do that nightly. And now we've got great speakers that come through the kitchen, and I can control all of it with an app right there on my phone. It's so convenient. It sounds great, and it works wonderfully. And it's all thanks to the folks at Audio Video Security Solutions. I highly recommend you give a call to Mitchell Fisher. This is his cell phone. He's the owner of the company. You call this number, you get him. It's 225-439-7920. 439-7920. That's Mitchell Fisher's cell phone. Tell him you're interested in whole home audio. Tell him you're interested in TV installation. Tell him you're interested in security systems. They do all of that over at Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Yo, Jake here from my friends over at Community Steel Company located in Gonzales, Louisiana. The local place you can turn to for all of your metal building needs. Notice I said local, not Houston, not Dallas, not Atlanta, but right here in Gonzales. Visit them at their brand new state-of-the-art website at communitysteelco.com or pick up the phone and give them a call today to answer all of your questions on your metal buildings, roofing and sheet metal, and any other steel needs you or your business need at 225-647-2020.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
Handicraft, join us for the Friday edition of Live at Lunch from Rufino's on Highland Road. Jimmy has the day off, but we will have former LSU coach Paul Mainieri along with Bruce Marshall and Troy Macker. Live at Lunch, 11 a.m. Friday from Rufino's on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the mic icon to send us your thoughts in audio form. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench, the Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review. Speak up, tell us your location, and be heard. Find our app in the Apple or Google Play Store. For direct links, visit 1045ESPN.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Rouse's Supermarkets.
A&M's got the tying run on second base. Jace Laviolette is digging in from the left side. Vols lead 2-1 in the top of the 6th inning from Hoover, LSU, and South Carolina. Coming at you this afternoon. I like the Tigers to get it done today. Hopefully Thatcher Herd has a heck of an outing and LSU will advance to Saturday. Quite frankly, if LSU wins today, I'd be just fine if they bowed right on out on Saturday and drove home. I don't need the bullpen and the arms being taxed one more day for 9 more innings on Sunday. As cool as winning a tournament is, and I'm sure the LSU guys want to do that, I would like to win today, take a day off tomorrow, bow out Saturday, head on home and get your fate on Monday morning. I'm very much looking forward to the selection show now, and just glad that LSU's in the mix at this point because looking back 5 weeks ago, it was not real likely, and they have turned it on. It's been a lot of fun to watch. So LSU in South Carolina, 4:30 this afternoon. You can listen to that game on Eagle 98.1. Our Thursday show is brought to you by Rouse's, official supermarket of the New Orleans Saints. Holiday weekend, got to get your grocery shopping done. Going to throw some burgers on the grill, some steaks on the grill. Rouse's is always a great option there. Got a great selection of meats back there at the butcher shop. They got stuffed burgers a lot of times with cheese and bacon, blue cheese. Got some of the lighter side as well if you want your chicken breast, pork chops, all that kind of stuff. Rouse is an awesome option, so get on by today and do all your grocery shopping with the folks at Rouse's. All right, Beck, take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. The NFL will implement optical tracking systems for yardage rulings this preseason with the potential for full-time implementation, a source confirmed to ESPN. Get rid of the chain game. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I feel like we've gotten to this point where we can figure out where the ball is without the use of a metal chain. As funny as some of the chain guys are when they're running around and it's kind of humorous, I don't know that it's an essential part of the game of football. So if we can optimize that a little bit and tighten things up and maybe not have guys getting injured because they're holding a chain next to 340-pound guys running at each other trying to kill each other, we should do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel sorry though for the guys who do the chain gang, man. They
losing game checks.
They're losing game checks. Got to go to NFL games. Probably got paid to do it. So unfortunate for those fellas.
Great line here. A guy in my brother-in-law's family came to an LSU game with us a few years ago, and he liked football, but had never been to a game before. And he was looking at the field in the first quarter, and he looked at my brother-in-law and he goes, "Where's the yellow line?" He didn't know that was superimposed
He didn't know
on the
that was the
television.
TV.
So that's just, I mean, we're so used to that on the TV. You get there in person, it's not there. So yeah, that's we can use that, and we can figure things out without the chain game.
All right, next one here. Conversely, Major League Baseball says robot home plate umpires are unlikely for the 2025 season. Commissioner Rob Manfred said Thursday that there has not been as much progress in the minor leagues as this year as MLB hoped for. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll leave it. Like I think we could figure this out. I mean, I don't need to look at Twitter freaking out about Angel Hernandez twice a week because he can't call balls and strikes and he's throwing people out of games. We've got everybody that watches games now has the K zone on there. We can tell what's a ball or what's a strike, and I just feel like we could figure some things out. Plus, if we get that figured out, and I don't have an umpire behind home plate, I can't have people throwing guys out of games for no reason all the time, which would also be great. So I wish we could figure that out. I think it would be just quite nice.
Yeah, like it also said in the article that they could possibly implement it and just use it as like for challenges, where if the manager thinks it's a bad call, they can challenge it. Kind of like in tennis. I mean, they have an umpire as well in tennis, and then they get the line call. So that could be interesting as well. Maybe a little bit of a middle ground there, especially considering the umpires in the MLB have a much bigger standing than the chain gang in the NFL. So moving on here, as reliever, Mason Miller's last 15 outings have been pretty good. He's thrown 19 1/3 innings, no runs, 40 strikeouts, and 0 walks.
Yeah.
Miller should be the All-Star Game starter for the American League. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. Mason Miller is the closer for the A's. He should start the All-Star Game. That's what we want to see. How electrifying was it when Pedro went out there in Fenway and he struck out Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, and who was the Jeff Bagwell maybe? I mean, he absolutely torched the top of the National League, and that was so cool. And I don't know exactly who the best hitters in the National League are. I know that Ronald Acuna is not off to the best start this year. Ohtani certainly would be in that category for the Dodgers, but I want to see Mason Miller face the 3 best hitters in the National League. Like that's what the All-Star Game is all about. I don't need to wait for him at the end of the game. Put him out there right when the starters are out there. This guy's throwing 102 miles an hour. He's not walking anybody. His slider is disgusting. No one can score. Let's put Ohtani and the best other 2 hitters in the National League out there, and let's see what happens. Like, you don't have to be a starting pitcher to start the All-Star Game. I want this guy. He's the best.
To me, what's even more impressive is that he's been able to have as many outings as he has because the A's are very bad. But he has managed to do what he can with his innings.
The A's are a real-life version of Major League's Indians. Like, their owner tanked the program so bad that they had to move the team. That's literally the plot of Major League. What if we like he's Rick Wild Thing Vaughn? That's who Mason Miller
actually is.
It's like the real life Wild Thing. That's my wish for the MLB. I saw the Barstool guys put that out. I could not agree more. Mason Miller should be the starter for the American League.
All right, next one here. Memorial Day is a top 5 holiday. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. I think Memorial Day is a top 3 holiday.
Oh, wow. So you're bumping Easter.
I am.
Wow, impressive.
I mean, Easter's on a Sunday. We don't even get a day off.
What
work.
about Mardi Gras?
Friday, I guess. No.
Really?
I mean, I like Mardi Gras, but Mardi Gras is on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, give me Memorial Day. Guaranteed 3-game weekend.
3-day
weekend. It's warm. I can play golf, which I am all weekend long. You can go out to the lake. You're guaranteed to, and plus, we got the selection show every year. I love Memorial Day. It's Christmas, Thanksgiving, Memorial Day. Give it to me.
Wow. Okay.
Because like 4th of July is great. It's summer, but it could be on a Wednesday. I don't want that. I want a 3-day weekend. I'm turning it into a 4-day weekend because I'm not working tomorrow. So I'm a Memorial Day, the 3rd best holiday there is.
Wow. I would say it's probably top 5, but top 3. That's pretty hot take you got there, Hunt.
I mean, Labor Day is really good too.
It is.
You get the 3-day weekend, and we got college football. So that's probably 4th.
All right, last one here. Myers road trip behavior. The little guy will be heading with you up to the port. Take it or leave it.
I mean, to be determined, but I have my thoughts. It's probably going to be a leave it.
Okay.
This child, it's not even whining and complaining and crying. It's that he will not be quiet. And he has to point out everything that goes on. Dada, big truck. Dada, garbage truck. Dada, tree. Dada, car. Myers, I'm trying to listen to the baseball game. Just play with your toys.
Look, he's being observant, man. He wants you to know.
I'm trying to listen to the game. I want to listen to the Cubs. I want to listen to LSU.
Hunt.
You're just being transported, so I can hand you off to my mom and play golf for 3
Hunt,
days.
come on, man. Have a little heart. The fella's he's observing. He's seeing things. He's learning.
play with your toys and don't say dada every 4 seconds.
Wow.
Literally. It is just more than I can handle.
Hunt up for Dad of the Year already in 2024, fellow people.
I mean, it'd be one thing if we could have a conversation, but he's 2.5, and all he does is say, Dada, big truck. Yeah, I know there's a big truck. It's the interstate. I don't care about the big truck.
Wow.
I'm trying to see what Thatcher Herd's curveball looks like, so just pipe down in the back seat.
And on that note, Hunt will leave us.
It's true. I got goldfish. I got pouches. We've got, what else? We have lemonade water. We have, we got a lot of stuff, and we're going to try to keep him quiet. But I don't have high hopes. I think that he is, you know what I might do? I might count the times he says dada. I might honestly do that and see what number.
I was going to say, I don't know if you're going to be able to keep up with that.
I would need like a clicker.
You need a clicker. That's what you need.
What do you use those clickers for?
Oh, for like attendance, counting attendance.
I'd need one of those. I don't even think that would work. That's it for me. I'm taking 4 days off, and we'll be back on Tuesday talking about LSU's regional site. My prediction, they're going to Santa Barbara. That's what I think. Musso's in for me tomorrow. You can catch all our stuff on demand if you missed it today. Matt Moscona's about to drive you home on After Further Review. Have an awesome holiday weekend to all of you. We're back in Tuesday. It's the Thursday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community